Welcome to Big Basket Now presents the RCB Podcast. 2001 was a year of glory for Indian sports, but it all started with history being made at the All England Championship when a certain Indian talent from Andhra went on to become the second ever champion of the most coveted badminton tournament in the world. Later, he played perhaps the most important role in scripting the roadmap for India to become a powerhouse in world badminton. I have with me the former Arjuna awardee and now the Dronacharya of Indian badminton. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Pullela Gopichand, welcome to the RCB Podcast. So nice to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me.
You became the second Indian All England champion in 2001. What changed in life after that tournament? Did you see certain things changing, and what were the dynamics before and after that?
Well, for us, very few tournaments in the world, if you win, make a difference to you in our country. Luckily, the All England is one of them. So when I won that, definitely a lot more people recognized it. When I look back today, had it not been for the win and the recognition on which I could build my coaching career, I don't think I would have been able to be the coach I have without that win as well.
Right. You faced disappointment in the Olympics, winning, losing part of the game, but did that spark a certain flame to carry forward and ensure that you will be part of coaching and development of the sport to a large extent?
Well, I didn't think so much in so specific terms back then. But for me, when I won the All England and I was at least played at a decent level at the world level, for me the thought was, with the kind of background I had, with the kind of preparations and the ecosystem I was brought up with, I think if I can actually win at the All England, probably there are many more like me who can actually do that with a bit of support. For me, the fact remained that when I won the All England, I was about 27, and that's when I started playing really the best badminton in my life. And I learned a lot from a lot of people, a lot of coaches, a lot of senior players, a lot of junior players, a lot of travel, a lot of trial and error. And I kind of, at that time when I realized that I have the formula to win at the highest level, I had to end my career because of injury. So that was the only thought, in the sense, if I can do it, maybe many others can. Instead of them having to go through the entire experience and learning from trial and error, which is time consuming, maybe if they know the formula which I had known for me and when I was 27, then probably they can mature faster and be good in world level much younger. So I'm very happy in some sense that when Saina won very early in her life, when Kashyap, when Guru, when Sai, when Srikanth or Pranay or Satvik, I think all of them started performing well at a young age. So when you start winning at a young age, you have the you could still make a couple of mistakes and you can kind of get up and tie your laces again and then come back onto your career. So that's, I think, what's been for me the most satisfying part of my journey.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
So when was it that you decided to take part in active coaching and being the flag bearer of Indian sports badminton coach? And what was the blueprint at that point of time?
I didn't think so much in so many clear terms. I think the only thing I knew was badminton. I realized that these kids had the potential. I realized that I can be of help. So I jumped in and started to help. And I think it led to more wins. It led to more attachment from my side to the players. And whatever they needed, I started to do, whether it was coaching, whether it was providing for resources, whether it was organizing events, whether it was turning and becoming an administrator. All of these things happened organically from a need perspective and not really from an aspect of planning or, like you said, there was no blueprint in some sense in my mind that this is how I will sequence it. Whatever needed to be done had to be done. And many of these things, as an All England champion and a flag bearer of the sport, in some sense, I had to do it, so I did it.
How different are we from the Chinese in terms of the process?
I think very different.
Okay.
I think when you look at a Chinese city, for example, they build all the infrastructure and then go in. We have a population explosion in the city, and then we try to figure out where the drainage is, where the water supply is, and where the electricity will come from. In some sense, that's how we are in the sporting ecosystem as well. I think it's just poles apart in some sense. We can't really compare with the system. Ours is much more chaotic. We have to navigate our ways. And it is not a system in some sense, because whenever there is a stronger person in a particular position, they pull it towards themselves. So if you have a strong administrator, it would become very administrator driven. If you have a strong coach, it would be coach driven. Sometimes if you have a strong player who's great player, then he pulls it. Or if a sponsor is big, he would pull it. So, or if a government is strong, they would pull it that side. So I think you just need to be alert about the dynamics of how things are and start to navigate. It's a very painstaking, not so nice ecosystem, but that's the way it is.
But that's what you're playing with, and you need to navigate your ways across. You've been training with a lot of next gen youngsters and training them to the process of becoming that expert and bringing in those medals, talking serious business when it comes to badminton. How different are the next gen or the youngsters compared to the previous generation?
I think there's abundant talent.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. I think we need to kind of bring in the right systems around them to ensure that they're not losing track. Because whether it's social media, whether it's short-term goals, I think to put things in perspective to them at that point of time, I think all of these need a mature system around. And today there are a lot of people in the ecosystem, so it cannot be one person driven in some sense, because it's too complex to do that. It was possible 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because the sport was not so big. But today you have managers, you have coaches, you have academies, you have administrators, you have NGOs, you have government, you have schemes. I think sponsors, media, you have a lot of people in the ecosystem. So when you have so many people, you need to organize a system which actually takes care of it, and it should not become and be up to the coach or the player to actually do that. It becomes too stressful, and you're actually stepping on too many people's foot if you try to do that. So I would really want a system to be built so that each one's roles are clear, and that's the best way forward.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
What do you think is the difference between badminton versus rest of the sports in our country, and whether that's helping us or not helping the sport?
I think each sport is different. And as I said, I think each sport, who governs each for sports, who are the people who are actually participating in the sport, I think all of these are very key components. I think an athletics would be different from a badminton to a chess and a squash. And that's what makes it even more complex in our country, because you have a huge country with a varied diversity of thinking as well. And the kind of people who get into sport, in the sense a golf and an equestrian will have a completely different kind of a mindset to a people who are taking up, say, combat sport or weightlifting or badminton. So I think to have something which looks at all sport as one is not the answer. To actually find the right people and trust them to find and have good auditing systems around so that the boundaries are clear, I think is the way forward.
Right. I think you touched upon this a little, but is bureaucracy a huge challenge in our country, and how do you circumvent that?
It is definitely because you're dealing with very strong people in the sense that if you have governments, they are very powerful. If you have associations, they are very powerful. And you as coaches or players, you're very dependent on the policies. And one government changes, one secretary changes, one association member changes can actually change the entire system altogether. So it's very, it's a tough things we are handling with. I would really love to see sport being looked at with a consistent policy for the next few years, which should be agreed upon by all stakeholders. And good or bad, it is important to actually fix a system and stay with the system for a certain period of time.
Right. Where we are right now, how has the growth of badminton been, and how do you see it going, and how would you want it to go in the next few years to come? Is there a roadmap that you would want us to take?
Oh, so I think I would love a lot of things to be done. But I think the growth has been exponential, where we would have, I remember there were tournaments which we could not conduct events because there were less than 8 entries in tournaments. And today, when you look at an national level event at an under 13 level also, you would have some 2,000 to 3,000 entries. So you're looking at some serious number of people playing the sport. And this has happened very rapidly in the last, say, 8 to 10 years. This has happened. The number of people who've invested in sport, the academies which they have built, the kind of money which they've invested, the number of people whose kids have spent 8 or 10 years in sport already, the amount of money, the time, the resources they have spent, I think is humongous. I think I would really want to see clarity on to ensure that the top cream is taken care of by good jobs and good sponsorships, but also the second who have actually dedicated and spent the best years of their life preparing for the sport. If they don't make it to the top, which is obviously the case that not everybody makes it to the highest level, I think what are we doing for them is a key component. And also people exiting out of sport, the people who don't make it in sport. And when they don't make it in sport, I think how do we ensure that they have the necessary life skills to actually lead a good life? I think this will be very important. So I think the ecosystem of sport is incomplete if we don't take care of every person who actually is participating in sport.
Right. All of them make vital ingredients to make the sport that it is and for the growth to happen. So it can't be ignored.
I think it's very important that when you have a group of people playing, all it takes is one generation of people who haven't made it, and they are becoming an example of other parents and other kids to say that, see, this fellow has played sport, this girl has played sport, and see what they've done to their lives. So I don't think we should actually get into that space. And I think we have to be very careful that when we take care of the top cream, which we do very well, we should ensure that down the bottom pyramid, people don't have a bad experience of sport. Exiting for sport needs quality to ensure that these people are taken care of at every level.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
How do you think the next 5 years are going to be in the Indian sports market, and does that get you excited?
I think sport is going to grow big time. As a spectator sport, it's definitely out there already. I think more good infrastructure and systems around it will ensure that at least the middle class will start playing sport a lot more, and a lot of kids will aspire to be take careers in sport. I think that will be really good, and I'm really excited about the Indian Olympic bid as well. Hopefully that will change things. Olympic success will make a huge difference, and I think we are definitely on the upward trend for sport, not only in the next 5 years, but maybe for the next 20 years for sure.
What about your opinion on coaching standards? Do you think there is a lot of quantity over quality, and has it reached a certain saturation according to you?
I think the key question is not about the quality. I think the key question is, are our coaches motivated? Are our coaches thinking that the system is fair? I think if we are able to actually address this issue to ensure that they get the respectability and they get the dignity and the pay, which is important, I think coaches will find the resources to ensure that their quality improves. I think for us to think itself that our coaching standard is not good enough is presumptuous. But I think the very idea and what we should be pushing is, are you motivated to be a coach? Are your best players motivated to be coaches? Are your best minds motivated to be coaches? And do the coaches in the system feel that they are part of an ecosystem which is fair? And I think that is what we should address first before talking about improving the quality in knowledge terms of the coaches.
Right. So would you say a certain revamp is required with the coaching staff in general, a system in place maybe?
Yes, I think it is an administrator-led, it is a bureaucrat-led, it is a government-led, or it is an association-led model which we do, or sometimes it's an athlete-led model we do. The best system would be a coach-led, athlete-centric, system-driven with the right kind of accountability and responsibilities, right kind of auditing, which is important to ensure that the fairness and the respect and the motivation to be a great coach is taken care of.
Right. A word of advice to a youngster who enjoys playing badminton and could start off by playing on the streets maybe. Not the best infrastructure, but what would you like to say to someone who is hopeful, who could have the potential to be the next big superstar in badminton?
I think just climb one step, the next step will seem possible, and climb that, and the next would seem possible. I think just take it one step at a time, do whatever is needed, and push yourself, and I think God willing, we'll make it.
Right. RCB Innovation Lab, Leaders India Meet, what did you think of the entire event, and what are your biggest takeaways?
I think it's amazing to see the diversity of people who are talking about it. I think right from Neeraj Chopra to Smriti Mandhana to the swimmers to Amitabh Kant to broadcasters. I think to get the entire ecosystem of people together, I think is amazing. And I think the ideas and the interactions and just the mixing of these people, I think will be great for sport.
We wish you the very best, because we know what a key role you play in developing more and more badminton superstars, and for all the generations to come as well. Thank you so very much for spending time with us on the RCB podcast. Look forward for plenty more conversations.
Thank you very much.
Big Basket Now presents the RCB podcast.